The mics and all, it looks like we are going to have a very formal session, but let me put it very right away that it's not going to be a very formal session. Let's keep it as casual and free flowing as possible. So, in fact, I had prepared an introduction for context setting, but then I thought, let me just ditch it altogether because here, when we are talking of a subject like serve to sell, I think let me just speak to you and set the context as a customer rather than go into the whole nitty gritties uh, of an introduction which is pre-prepared. uh, well, of course, anything relating to customer experience, when we talk about it today, it's cliched. Everyone says, okay, customer experience is key, is or it is a topmost priority for companies. As cliche as it may sound, it is definitely the number one priority for companies, if not number one among the top priorities for companies. And business leaders are definitely realizing that it is becoming the differentiator for them in terms of getting a competitive edge, besides, of course, any product differentiation and innovation within their product and service lines. If you really look at the evolution of customers, and let me talk of myself as a customer here, it has been phenomenal over the last 8 to 10 years. I, as a consumer, am used to WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, a whole lot of other apps, which Snapchat, many of them which I don't even use. Maybe some of them I don't use, some of them I use, or using Google. Sorry. So we are used to an experience which is cutting edge. We are used to an experience which is intuitive, and therefore we expect the same from all brands today. We expect the brands to really understand us, know us, understand our journey, our consumption patterns, our behavior, where we are in the journey right now, and enable us or provide us with personalized, customized solutions across the various phases in this journey. And when we say being able to understand and being able to provide those customized solutions and personalized solutions, it is across the various communication channels, not just one channel. And when it comes to various touch points, it has to be standard across all the touch points. Now, what this means for brands and for companies and marketers in general is that retaining a customer is much cheaper than acquiring a new customer. Of course, acquisition of a new customer is important, and that will obviously a key part of getting the business going. But retaining your existing customers is as important as acquiring new customers, and the cost of acquisition perhaps is lesser than getting or rather retaining is lesser than acquiring a new customer. And if you're not able to deliver the experience that I spoke about, your customers will not return back to you. And we are all here examples of the fact where we probably had a bad experience with a brand and we decided not to go back to the brand again. So here that leaves us with two or three areas that brands, of course, want to focus on. One is, are they really able to understand what their customers want? Are they able to understand their customers' behaviors, patterns, where they are in their purchase journey? And once they are on board, how are we serving them? How are we really serving the customers to ensure that they come back to us? And then being able to maximize on the opportunity of the customers whom you are able to retain, and being able to cross sell other solutions to those customers. So in today's discussion, we will look at some of these areas, and of course these areas are not without any challenges. So we would definitely like to hear from all of you in terms of what some of those challenges are and how you are strategizing around providing that kind of customer experience and customer engagement. So I don't want to go on and on about it, and I would like to hear more from all of you. And once again, thank you so much for braving the traffic on a Friday evening. I know this is a time when you could have been, in a party mood with the weekend there, but thank you so much. All the more grateful to you for taking our time for this. So I have with me Abhishek and Vignesh from the Airtel team. And Abhishek, maybe I would like to start with you, and if you have something to add to what I already said.
Sure. No, thank you guys. Thank you for coming here. I think it's a good small group, and we should have some fun. And like she said, it's Friday, so we might as well have some fun, right? But I think the couple of points that you made are phenomenal, right? Because today the new generation of customers that we keep talking to, uh, they don't have the patience to wait for service, right? They are trigger happy. They would like to be served right there, right? And uh, we Airtel is a large B2C company. We talk to about 350 million customers, uh, and we realize that if we want to look at growth, there's very little metric that will move by growing the number from 350 million to 351 million. Right? It's extremely hard. We're almost growing at the rate of how many people become 18 years old every day, and that's a metric that we can't really grow, at least not by ourselves, right? uh, so we realize that growth is essentially going to come from our own customers, and we can keep working on products, but we need to take these products to our own customers. And there is no better acquisition strategy than a satisfied and happy customer. And we pivoted our entire organization into just serving our our customers. Our CEO has made a very large statement saying we will only have two kinds of employees. One set of employees serve our customers, and the other set of employees serve the people who serve our customers. And if we imbibe this strategy, it is always service first, right? So that's how important we've taken this agenda internally, in terms of completely redesigning how we talk to our customers, and it's always service first, right? So I'm going to share a story. uh, we were trying to grow our uh, DTH business. DTH is a business where we have about 17 or 19 million subscribers today, right? We said let's go find new customers who want to try and buy DTH, right? We realized that we do about 5.5 lakh home visits every month for our broadband or mobility customers, and we do these visits because they have a problem, right? There's a broadband outage, or someone wants to move their router, or their mobility connection is not great and they want us to come and take a look in their house, right? This 5.5 lakh touch points is given to us every day at zero cost of acquisition. If we can convert every one of our installation and fault repair engineers to actually serve the customer better, we've seen these customers ask us, or ask this engineer saying, "Acha, Airtel और क्या देता है?" Right? And it was a revolutionary idea that simply gave us, that dropped our cost of acquisition in these customers to zero. We were going home, we were serving this customer for a challenge that they had with us, right? So we've already defaulted in that customer's mind, but just by serving them in that instance better, saying, "We understand you have a problem, I'm here to fix it," we were able to create an opportunity which was essentially accredited, and we have lifetime values of 20, 30, 40,000 from that household, right? So it was phenomenal. The challenge that hit us was, how do we train this engineer to do this better? How can we personalize that home visit to know what this customer has as a challenge, instead of going home and finding out, right? Second, also personalizing what other products this customer can buy. And it was simple. We brought in teams from data to analyze these customers. We brought in teams from our network to understand the fault proactively, right? And almost work towards, if I'm there at home for 15 to 20 minutes, can I solve the problem in the first 5, rather than take the 14 minutes to debug it and in the last 1 minute figure out how to solve it and run away, because I have the next visit to get to, right? And put us at least everyone in the product team had an immense task to solve this, right? So this is a story I wanted to share, where it's amazing how you're almost taking in a escalation and converting that into a point of sale, right? And we were able to do it from 3 4 sort of tenets that I want to talk about. One was our disproportionate interest in ensuring service is great. Second, our belief that if you can proactively fix a problem through data, fix it. And third, simplifying our products to an extent that an engineer who's actually a fault repair engineer for a product or for a service can sell another service, right? So it talks about the topic today, right? And this is what I wanted to share with all of you in terms of how Airtel was able to do it. One instance, I'm sure all of you have stories around this, and look forward to hearing that from me today. So thank you, welcome, and let's look at a great evening together.
Thanks, Abhishek. So I think one thing that companies are realizing is that it doesn't end with getting a customer on board. The journey doesn't end here. You have to look at the entire life cycle of the customer post the acquisition, and that is where that is where the meat lies. To be to be on a casual note, but while I threw big terms like customer engagement, customer experience, understanding customer journeys, I think what I really want to understand from all of you here, and Arpit, if you allow me, I can start with you. What do you see as your top three challenges in when it comes to your customer engagement strategy, when it comes to understanding the customer journey, their pain points, anticipating their expectations, uh, understanding the patterns? What do you see are those top three challenges that come to your mind?
Sure. Before I go into the challenges, I'll want to say. In fact, you said that acquisition comes and then the service comes. I would say the service starts way before acquisition itself. I think the this conference or this discussion is aptly titled "Serve to Sell." Serve comes first and sell comes later, right? And that is what uh, is happening right now. I think customer is service has become a differentiator. Customer is saying, "Show me the service, then sell me the product." So I just wanted to pitch in that point, and that's what we also do. So I represent Extramarks, which is an edtech company. And when I say an edtech, it's not only a learning app. We also provide a teaching app, and we also, for last 15 years, we have been providing digital learning solutions to schools. And when we say customer service, uh, we tell the customer, try our product 7 days, uh, and then if you like the product, like the service, then purchase the product. So that's why service becomes so important to us. uh, Coming to challenges specifically, since you asked, right? The biggest challenge, especially in the industry which I represent, the consumer and the customer is very different, right? One of the biggest customer engagement things which we need to which everyone talks about is personalization, right? But the challenge which I face right now is who do I speak to? So there is a parent who's a decision maker, and there is a student. If I am sending out a push notification or a message, who should the who should the communication be tailored to? While personalization is easy, but who do I personalize it to? It would be a different message to a parent and different to a student. So I believe biggest challenge for me is this. How I try to tackle it is, till class 8, I would say I'll tailor it to the parent, because parent is the primary decision maker. Uh, in class senior grades, students also have their say, so I'll tailor it towards them. So personalization becomes, as in the customer versus consumer, is one of the biggest challenges. Uh, second, uh, second challenge I would say is, while managing customer experience in case of digital is very easy, when it's offline, how do you maintain that consistency between offline and online? So whatever customer experience you've been providing through digital mediums, how do you maintain it? Yeah, so that is again, because you don't know, you while you'll train every salesperson on the ground, every customer support executive on the ground, but you don't know how that will pan out to be. So that is, I would say, so these are the two challenges I can right now kind of think about from my business perspective as well.
No, and very interesting part that you mentioned about who is your target audience. When you're talking of an edtech company, I'm sure that will be the case with a lot of other edtech companies as well, whether it's the parents or the children themselves, the students themselves. Also, when you were talking about that the serving part starts even before selling, I think that's absolutely true, and it resonates with the fact that today a new customer is looking at your history, and if your existing customers, if they're unhappy, they do not shy away from posting it on Twitter or any social medium.
Yeah,
And that actually dissuades even your new customers from coming if your existing customers show
absolutely.
unhappiness. So of course the serve part starts before that. Angad, in your opinion, what are those three challenges? I mean, you can have two as well, two or three or four also, in terms of, when it comes to anticipating the expectations of your customers, understanding what are their pain points, where they are in their journey. What are those three areas where you actually hit a roadblock?
Yeah, so I think just wanted to highlight that uh, the dynamics of the business that I operate, given it's a media and commerce entity, I represent a few brands. MensXP is one of them, which is a content commerce company now. IDEVA, which is on its way to, it's already a content company. It's already, and it's foraying into commerce very soon. So the dynamics of customer engagement have sort of a different dynamic at our end. Uh, Let me put that in context. In On the internet, there are two ways to make money. You either make money through getting money out of people, it's transactions, or you make money through time, right? So we're in the former and now soon in the latter as well. So in the ecosystem where you have to build a business around engagement, the metrics and the focus on engagement is sort of prima facie the business model itself. Uh, so whether if it's, do you make money at a page view, do you make money at the amount of time a customer is spending, the return traffic that you're sort of getting on your platforms, or whether if it's an nth level deeper metrics, like are you looking at them commenting, are you looking at them sharing their experience on your ecosystem. So the dynamics of engagement are multifold. Now, since we're a business which is sort of morphing its engagement pool of not 350 million, but possibly around 50 or 60 million into commerce, the dynamics multiply, right? Because you may have engaged meaningfully out of the 50 odd million people, say out of 10 million have meaningfully engaged, but the funnel keeps shrinking at some point. So I think the first issue I would say is the identification or the segmentation of the customer, because I'll also sort of like highlight, unlike say your universe where there is broadly a duopoly, there is also an internet duopoly with the Google and Facebook, and sort of consolidation of data becomes very very difficult sometimes, especially for businesses like ours. So customer segmentation, identification of what segment wants to connect with you at which level is prima facie the first biggest challenge. I would say second is the sort of very category specific dynamics, right? So let's say if we are running a fashion brand, or if you're running a, one of my counterparts is running a sort of a fitness brand, um, in a category where there are so many options and so many great marketing efforts afoot, how do you really differentiate? at a sort of a utility level, at a functional level, at an emotional level. So I think those category specific woes are, let's just say, in an internet, in a sort of an ecosystem which is expanding almost 60% year on year, right? The way you navigate that aspect is also very different. I think the third, I would say, is the medium of customer engagement itself. So you've identified your customer hypothetically. How do you engage with them? Do you call them? Do you send them a snail mail? Do you and I think it seems trivial, but it's actually not, because how do you bypass the challenges of privacy, right? The platforms on which you have identified the customer from may only have specific attributes of communication. You can't direct message them, right? So I think the medium itself, the medium of communication, sometimes becomes very challenging.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Angad. In fact, when you're saying that there are certain category-based challenges, that is true. So while there are certain challenges which will be universal across all industries and categories, but of course, when it comes to let's say a fashion brand or a content brand, or let's say an edtech company or a fintech,
Sure.
the challenges, there will be certain nuances which will be very different. So Arpit, what are those nuances for you that really uh, that let's say are the pain points for you when it comes to your customer engagement journey?
Sure. So basically, I represent the Man Company, and we are basically into men's grooming segment. I would say the three major challenges in terms of customer engagement that we face today is the first. matlab, I would say all three funnels of customer engagement, which is like acquisition, retention, and even the overall the brand advocates that you develop are matlab, at least for us are on the struggling side, which is like the cost of acquisition is at all time high, because there's a lot of competition, and as Angad rightly mentioned, the consolidation of the major customer acquisition channels, which is like mostly happens through Facebook, Instagram, and Google, YouTube. I can only remember these names when I say if I have to go for any campaign to implement today. So basically, that has restricted the brands like us to think beyond some platforms which can where you can like bet your money and you can just get a commitment on your like overall performance or your investments, which is like the major challenge for brands like us. If today I can like work with any partner which promises me or commits me that okay, we'll together work on this particular model, and it's a win-win situation for both of us. We are getting our margins obeyed, and they are also like making money out of it. It's like a win-win situation which we hardly find today. And even like uh, on acquisition channels, even you like whatever type of ads you make, so our prime focus has now moved from acquisition to retention. And there basically we have made fundamental changes in our policy, because we have seen that matlab, in last 2 years we have done massive customer acquisition, but we were just seeing that how the journey of our customers looks like, what are their products, with whom what we can introduce our brands to them. So we have classified some of our top products on the basis of the best reviews we have got so far, so that we'll push our brand through these products, and then certainly we'll cross sell and upsell some products and make the customers are finally the brand advocates. So I would say that the first challenge that we face today is the customer acquisition at the profitable, because see right now the prime focus at least for us has been the profitability for the business, in terms of uh, we are not at all into the growth at all cost model. We are now have like taken that we will at least not grow, but whatever we'll grow profitably. That's the like an organizational level decision that has been matlab, like now there we are seeing what's happening in the industry, and everyone is looking at the bottom lines now instead of top lines. So that's why we have restricted our investments on major customer acquisition channels. And when I say that, I clearly say that on Facebook and Google. And we are now more investing into building, first of all, the brand value, our overall customers that we have already acquired. We are spending a lot on engagement, how we can make their better experience when they are on our website, when they are on our stores, when they just explore our Instagram and YouTube channels, so that they can get to know what's the story of the brand, instead of just selling them any product at 50-60% off. So we have tried to move away ourselves from that. So that is, like, I would say, the prime challenges that we face today.
So thanks, Arpit, for actually pivoting us to a very important point, which is ROI. Because when we talk of profitability, the conversation invariably comes back to ROI. And before that, I was reading somewhere that your biggest advertising campaign can be your existing customers. They are your biggest advertisers. So no matter how many hoardings or you put, but your existing customers can be your biggest advertisers. However, everything comes with a certain value. There has to be certain value and return attached to the money that you're spending. So Saumya, I'm going to put you into the spot here and bring out this question, the quintessential question of ROI, because I think one of the biggest challenges, and as well as the biggest priorities for companies, for brands, is how do they really maximize the ROI. And so in your company, how are you working on really optimizing and maximizing the return on advertising spends for better customer acquisition, retention, as well as the ability to grow the existing base of customers? And I will put others also into the spot when it comes to ROI as well.
Yeah. But I think the industry I am, and I represent OLX Autos, so it's a used car space. So the biggest challenge, while I was thinking about that answer, when it comes down with the ROI only, so our challenge is our customers are not repeat customers. We only get to see our customers within a time span of 8 to 9 years. Because if you sell a car today or buy a car today, you're not going to buy it tomorrow, or maybe a next week or next month. So for us, ROI becomes even more difficult. So that's a challenge that our industry faces. But rightly said, we put the right money to figure out where to invest for acquisitions, so that the sales or the purchases we are making had the right mix and match. So that also becomes very difficult because we don't know. Like for us customers, like I think Abhishek started with saying that today's generation, and I'm glad that I'm part of this generation, 90s kids, the youngest of the lot, but we are very impatient. And probably our parents who don't know the digital world, or the grandparents who's very difficult to adopt, although they have adopted too well, I don't know where to invest that money to acquire customers. Should I put it on Instagram, or should I have newspapers, or should I actually have like a BTL campaign? I don't know. So it, to very honest, it's a very wrong question for me again, but I think it's a mix and match. But what we prioritize is the right lead and more sustainable lead, so that we have better conversions, which in turn ensures that customer gives us referrals. So referrals plays a very important part for us rather than retaining the same customer. So for me, a referral will be an ROI, better ROI than the same customer giving me a business in future. So that's how it works here for us at used car industry.
Absolutely, and that I think that's a very good example of what we said, that for each industry the dynamics and the nuances vary completely. Chela, again, when it comes to ROI, I think that's what the management wants to know at the end of the day. What has been the return on the advertising spend? So how are you really optimizing it and maximizing the return on advertising spends for better acquisition, retention, as well as maximizing the value from your existing customers?
Yeah. So just to add a couple of points to some of the conversation that went earlier. one of the things we have realized on ROIs is that I think there's a classical way of thinking about how to identify the right consumers and get them as cheap as cost as possible. I think the big ROI unlock that we have got is going back to consumers and asking who are the consumers who convert and who are the consumers who don't. Let's just step back for a moment and look at it and move away from the more technical way of kind of farming the consumers into really asking yourself how do people choose. One of the things we have realized in this whole thing is people want someone to trust. People want someone to understand them and provide them the service or the product that they really want. So we have realized that the better we kind of construct our environment, the more trust we get from our consumers, the more frictionless the transaction, the better the conversion. Often what we think of is conversion is a given. So the more you put on the top, but what we have realized, going back to the same theme of retention is better than acquisition, because acquisition is getting more expensive. We have taken a bit of a intangibles approach on this one, and we are trying to construct our environment in a way where people will feel comfortable trusting you and converting. To your point, what you made earlier, okay, that has been a big ROI unlock for us. Okay, so that is one of the learnings we have got. Of course, if I were to go back to the classical way, I think discipline around segmentation, targeting, positioning of how your communication works. If I am going to receive a communication which does not talk to me, then that's a wasted communication. That's where I think, so discipline around how you target communication, how do you position it, discipline around how nimble your communication is. I think those are things that will never go out of fashion. Coming from Mondelez in my original training ground, nothing can ever replace how do I say, a trusted relationship and a one-to-one relationship. It's not about the quantum of communication, it's a quality of communication. Okay, so that's really the angle I would like to bring, that hard metrics are one thing, but truly ROI will be driven by, and the real multiplier is in kind of getting back to the consumer centricity and converting people. A really good piece of communication, well placed, can convert 20 times more people, rather than just putting them through a funnel. So that is one, I think, build I'd like to share apart from what everybody else shared.
Thanks, Chela. So I would like to, Vignesh, bring you into the conversation here, since you heard the views so far, two views in terms of ROI, two distinct industries and two distinct views. And like Chela said, a rightly placed communication can have 20x returns as compared to a communication that is not. So what in your opinion are the challenges when it comes to really getting to really maximizing the return on advertising spend, and how do you suggest that or that brands really solve that puzzle?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at hi everyone. So if you look at the conversations that we have had, like one consistent theme is everybody wants quality customers, right? We talked about retaining them, but you have to get them in the first place, right? Then we're looking at how do I get them, right? How do I identify the right customers? Right? That's the other next problem. And then if I find them, then what is the cost of a quality customer, right? Because if I don't get them in the first place, what will I do with them, right? And then as Chella spoke, the more you're going to dump, you're just playing the volume game. Let's jump as many ads as possible, and then we'll get some conversion. Let's play around 0.5%, 1% here, etc., and then we are marginalizing the whole thing. I think it's super important to identify the right customer. I think that's where it starts, and I think once we do that, then automatically every other part of it, whether it's retention or whether it's engagement, etc., becomes slightly more easier, right? I think that's one theme that we're definitely seeing. The second part is that I think if you look at the environment around us, especially I think Arpit, you spoke about customers acquisition cost being quite high. How do we manage that, etc., right? I think that comes to the right fact. I mean, boils down to the challenge that the industry is also facing, right? You don't have any data in the first place to figure out who's my right customer, right? We are going by somebody searches for a particular keyword, and then we are just bombarding everybody with the same kind of ads. Not great experience. Customer doesn't like it, right? I mean, so how do we balance experience versus how do we ensure we get him the right content or information or ads as we call it, right? And how do we balance it, right? That becomes like a big challenge. So if you give customers the right kind of content or ads, right, and we give them a great experience like Chella said, how do we create the right environment and we're able to find that balance? I think you don't have to pitch, you don't have to sell, right? Automatically then people are continuously coming to your website or your app, or they become your customers, right? So I think that how do we find the right balance actually is the challenge that I think all of us are trying to find that, right? So
Yeah, it's like walking a tightrope
Yeah.
when you're saying balancing the two. So therefore, Santosh, do you think have you found the silver bullet to this challenge? I mean, to the challenge of maximizing ROI on advertising spends, and what Vignesh talked about, the balancing act.
So, fortunately, we have more problems in our business than possibly all of. Everybody feels my business is more difficult than everybody else's, and we are no different on that side. But I think our business comes with one amazing advantage, where retention almost becomes a part of business model itself. So, when you are investing, so we are a wealth tech app in that sense, where you actually come and invest your hard-earned money, and typically people understand that they need to uh, invest systematically, they need to invest for long term, and they need to keep putting money every month, every year. So we actually are not even a company which is 7 year old yet, but our projected lifetime is more than a decade for every customer we acquire. In fact, almost 2/3 of our entire customer base we have ever acquired transacts with us at least once in a quarter. I don't think uh, those kind of metrics are easily achievable in any kind of other business in that sense. Maybe telco is another one, or DTH is another example, but maybe we are not as unlucky as other categories in that sense. So, because the customer is highly valuable for us, uh, we are patient enough, highly valuable for us in terms of because its retention is automatic built in. People come and stay with us, so we have the luxury of being more selective and not really bombard people. So, uh, thanks to the group we belong to in that sense, we are not somebody who burns money on advertising too much in that sense. So, I think about close 70% of our entire customer base is organic. So we don't spend that much money on advertising in first place. But the stuff we do, we always supplement it with in a way that my organic keeps going up. So instead of putting money on advertising, we put money on content. So Angad talked about being a content, and now he wants to become a commerce brand. We actually started with the commerce where we were well tech, and we realized that all the advertising in the world can't convince a customer who's yet to decide that I need to invest. Yeah, people don't wake up in the morning to invest. It's life calling many times, in my opinion. So, and first of all, I think Abhishek talked about your TGs. Somebody needs to earn 18 first before he or she can become your customer. For us, it's all the more hard that somebody needs to earn at least 10 lakh rupees per annum to become our customer, because till the time you don't earn like that kind of money, you don't save enough to invest first place. So, so we are kind of maybe we are aware about these things, that there's no point in bombarding people just because somebody kind of researched about mutual funds for curiosity purpose. In that sense, there is no point I get any kind of valuable information to chase that customer. So we focus a lot on content. We instead of putting money on advertising, we put money on YouTube, running our channel on that side, where we possibly leave a permanent imprint about somebody wanting to search a specific topic. And most topics in investments are evergreen. Like everybody wants to lose less and earn more. Everybody wants to have low returns, kind of low risk and high returns. Everybody wants to always kind of maximize taxes. So yeah, so but that's the easier part, but there's a tougher part that the category itself, while it shows the stupendous growth over the last 2 years after COVID, the fact is India has only about 7.8 crore taxpayers last year, And as of Sunday, the last day of the tax filing this year, the number was abysmally low at 5.8 crore. Yeah, so if I'm assuming the people were lazy, so I can be resting at peace. But if probably the market has shrunk, then we have a problem. So we focus on, of course, we do advertising. It's not that we don't, but we continuously focus more on content, and second, we focus a lot on product marketing because you know. By definition, we are a brand which is wanting, or people will want to trust and then give the money. So I'm always, as a consumer, better off by catching hold of my neighborhood agent to buy a mutual fund. Even people who are millennials, who are actually born online, in my opinion, today, somehow they prefer meeting an agent and not buying online. Yeah, so you need to acquire the trust from the customer, and the only way you can acquire is basically educate so nicely, so dispassionately that they trust you, or you basically build differentiated offering and communicate that. So we leverage most of our paid advertising is focused on product marketing, where we actually give a reason to buy from ETMoney versus buying from other competition. We would focus on the 4 or 5 or 6 key differentiators that ETMoney only has and nobody else has. We'll go and talk about them. And with content and this product marketing approach, we'll hope that we acquire right customer. And because the model is inbuilt retention, because you start SIP, we end up having that metric. And the challenge becomes, how do we grow the market? So for me, the bigger challenge is how do we grow the market and not really how we retain? Because the fact is, when people come so less, we are obsessed about driving conversions.
And also interesting because you're in the industry such that there's so many players and everybody understands it's transparent, and awareness is quite high, right? People before they come to you, I'm sure they research so much before they come to you and stuff. So I think focus is more on building trust because that's where you're playing a part, right? So absolutely.
I wouldn't say people are completely aware, but I think because it's such a research-based category, it's not an impulsive buy. People tend to search a lot, maybe on Google and today on YouTube because of the geo effect in that sense, or Airtel effect in that sense. There's so much of video consumption happening that our YouTube channel has about 60,000 hours of watch time, and we don't have like a entertainment content being talked about, things like our music. It's hardcore financial content.
So on a daily basis?
No, on a monthly basis. 60,000 hours of watch time happening on that side, and that possibly drives the entire growth.
And at a time when you now have not just fashion influencers but personal finance influencers galore in
So I think
the market,
that helps, right? So because you are able to integrate or use those influencing channels, it becomes far more easier stuff than that. But of course, the challenge doesn't go away where the market is so small. Like 7-8 crore people who are your eligible customers. It's a hard reality that we live with every day.
So really, how do you really maximize the opportunity from within that small market?
Yes, so it's education, because the fact is, even if I'm an existing mutual fund customer, or maybe like saving taxes every year I will want to optimize my decisions and I will start search. And then if you can build content on those search, it becomes far more easier to acquire than actually chase through advertising in that sense.
Thanks, Santosh. So, Ankit, I want to move to a little different track. With you, move away from the ROI track to another one. I spoke about how it is important to leverage the different communication channels and being able to cut across the multiple touch points. So I would like to understand from you, how are you leveraging the various communication channels and multiple touch points to reach through to your customers and deliver them a better and consistent experience across all these, both to improve the retention of your existing customers as well as to create new avenues of cross-selling to your existing customers, because you don't want them to come back for the existing products, but also get them to buy more some of the other products as well.
Good evening, everyone. So some really great points made by everyone. So there are a couple of things that we've done a little differently, perhaps. We've not tried to look at each of these channels as channels to propagate our message. But we've tried to approach these channels with a different positioning statement for each channel, right? So for the consumer, each of these channels, whether it is social media, WhatsApp, news media, whatever it may be, it's all, there's a purpose for each of these channels in their lives. And what we've tried to do is create a positioning statement for our brand, which is for that individual channel, so as to not essentially stand out like a sore thumb when we send out a communication using that channel, but integrate ourselves within that channel so that we're serving the same purpose for which the user is using that channel, right? So, for example, an Instagram user is very different from, so, or rather, any user, they use Instagram very differently than they would use Twitter, or they would use WhatsApp very differently than they would use SMS, right? Now, sure, we can, just put out our message across all of these channels. It can be a homogeneous message, but then the same user interacts with that message very differently across all of these channels, because the user's behavior is not going to change just because your brand decided to push that message across, right? So that's the first thing that we've done. We've created a channel specific positioning statement, which is a guiding light for all our content creators, right? If you're creating content for a specific channel, that positioning statement has to be a guiding light. Second thing for us has been, since we were talking about ROI, just quickly touch on that as well. We've actually, we're somewhere in between where Saumya and Santosh are. Low frequency, very small eligible base, right? So I head brand and marketing for IndiaLends, which is a marketplace for consumer credit products, right? Low frequency product, very small eligible base, and at the same time, it's a very high involvement product, right? Now, what we've done is, we've moved away from a funnel model. So we've moved to a flywheel model, right? Like Saumya said, my value could be derived from a referral, right? Now, if a customer comes or a prospect comes to our platform and unfortunately they're ineligible for a particular loan or a card, I can't really do much about it. But communicating it to that customer in the most empathetic manner, where they understand why they've been rejected by a particular lender, and at the same time retaining that user so that they can refer it to their friends, or the education that we provide to that user in terms of why they were rejected, so that they're not blaming us or the lender, but have actionables to go back and work on, allows our users to actually refer their friends, family, whenever they're looking for credit products, right? So we've changed the definition of ROI for ourselves, where we're looking at two key metrics. One is LTV, of course. So as opposed to looking at how a particular campaign performed in terms of top line or bottom line, how has it impacted our LTV, right? Which includes referrals as a very important aspect of how we're calculating LTV. And the second thing is where we are actually looking at how is it impacting the momentum of where the customer is on the flywheel, right? So how many people, so how much are they engaging with us, how many referrals are they giving to us, and how is that changing over each communication that we send out to them. And that has become a very important aspect of looking at our ROI. So that's what that's how we look at communication channels along the flywheel. Which communication channel will add the most to either the momentum or the LTV or both, and communicate it in a manner where it's natural for the user. They don't find it to be out of the ordinary. Why am I receiving this message on WhatsApp? Right? It's a communication channel.
Yeah, that's very important point that you raised about how you communicate. When you said that maybe the customer, the prospective customer, is not eligible, and how the communication needs to be empathetic, so that it's not like you're telling them that you're not eligible, but that at the same time you still create a prospective customer in the future, and through him other customers as well. So not just the channels, but also how you communicate. I think that's
Can I
equally
just add
important.
just to support this point?
Sure.
So I've had one terrible experience, booking a flight ticket. I was traveling abroad, Singapore or something, with my family. Tried to buy the cheapest ticket available. Bought it, went to the airport, and I realized that that airline, the price of the ticket was low because there was no check-in baggage, right? And we had 20 kilo check-in baggages each, whatever, 15 20 kilos. And the airline told us that, sorry, you didn't read the fine print. We don't take in check-in baggage. You can put 7.5 kilos of your carry-on luggage. Others you have to pay. I said, okay, so how much is it? It was some 750 rupees a kilo into 80 kilos. It was double the thing. Okay, so that was one experience I had, and obviously it was not practical for us to. So I let go of it. Was quite a lot of money. I was fairly pissed off at that point in time. I just let go of the money. I went to the thing. No, I'm just recollecting this because from that day onwards, for me it became very clear. Like you take Vistara for example. Okay, I'm absolutely clear about the experience that I will get with that airline. I'm absolutely clear that if I am in trouble, what will the response that will come from them? And for me, that is worth the 1,000 rupees more I pay. It's absolutely fine. I might travel once in a month personally. Okay, that arena of safety, that arena of trust and comfort is really, I think, what brands fundamentally offer to their consumers. Okay, so the more clear you are about how consumers will feel in your environment, the more you will start to create that environment, and that's what people are seeking. Okay, now just to go back to what Abhishek said about Airtel, your CEO told you that we are in the business of serving consumers. I think that's a fantastic word. Okay, because that's going to completely rally everybody around what exactly you are in the business of doing. So I really like what you said, the flywheel, to say that's okay, fine, you're not in my funnel, but you could be a positive force in my flywheel by just the way I say sorry, but it's that's the other thing that we really because people use the very bulldozer approach of just getting everything ongoing, and particularly as the noise increases in just the media and so on and so forth, I think people they will go towards people who are clear and well defined, because there's too much of chaos to deal with. So that I think that's I think a great point. I think the theme that's kind of emerging is ROI is not about the tangibles, just making the numbers work. I think the multipliers in the intangibles really.
I can add to that, right? And I think a very important point that we are trying to make is, in order to build trust in the customer's mind, uh, you can't look at it commercially only.
Yeah.
Right? Because one, it's very difficult to look at long term value of a non customer. It's
Yeah.
extremely difficult, for you to do that. And I've seen examples where I've had product managers come to me saying, this customer seems to be deeper in the funnel, so instead of sending a reminder on using SMS, let's use WhatsApp. Right? But let's not use WhatsApp for someone who's very early on the funnel, because I don't know, the conversion rate is poorer, and the math goes haywire, right? And actually, it's very difficult to understand and to solve this problem. But uh, doing lifetime value first of a non-customer, if we can crack that, I think we can look at the next 20-30% growth just coming from people who we did not serve as customers, right? And we think it's a very important phenomena. At least if you look at our broadband business, the business has tripled over the last 3 years, right? And it's got nothing to do with what we did. COVID gave us the growth, right? We humbly took it. But think of every mobility customer today who's using data on their phone is a natural
Yeah.
broadband customer in the future. And do we give them that experience just because they pay us $299 a month versus $999 on broadband, right? And I mean, our customer parlance is also not the same. So we've been struggling with some of this in terms of, and we've gone to the extent of saying, should we give contact center IVR only for prepaid versus a relationship manager who'll pick up the phone immediately for postpaid, right? And these are problems that we deal with every day, but very tough to answer. And you guys are at the helm of growth in your organizations. That you're going to be asked every day, say, why aren't we growing? But we can't spend more money on it, right? So it's amazing to hear some of the things. Sorry.
Yeah, so just to add to that, like he rightly said that we need to empathize and clear communication. But a lot of times we as brands, and I think all of us have made mistakes somewhere, we forget we need to empathize and not sympathize. We start apologizing for nothing. We've not done nothing wrong in life. If someone is not eligible for loan, it's not my mistake, it's not customer's mistake. It is that we have to make him understand we understand you. You're absolutely fine. There is no error. It's okay. I'm not earning. If 10 lakh is the minimum income I have to earn, I cannot start my career with 10 lakh. I need to reach after a stage of point. So that becomes very difficult for us to also differentiate when to empathize and not focus on sympathizing. And like Abhishek said, that even brings us the next point where that what is the right mix? That is it the IVR, is the voice bot, or is it the human talking? we don't we are not able to have a right mix. Like today in Airtel, black customers, I'm directly routed to a relationship manager. Probably in prepaid, my dad uses a prepaid account, he's not directed. So is it the right? Am I happy? I don't want to talk to. My dad wants to talk to your agent. I really don't. I want someone to help me over the chat. So we really don't know the right mix or the right point which mode of communication should come in place. Like at the lead generation, should it be the WhatsApp or should it be a call? Or once it's been converted, now I take a feedback over a call or a WhatsApp chatbot. So that becomes very difficult, and I'm not too sure which industry or business have cracked it right yet. But I think all of us are struggling or understanding or having our learnings in our own way. So, and that's a challenge also. The first question you asked all of us, I'm sure all of us face this today in everyday's life. That some customer saying you're calling me 10 times in a day, someone is saying you don't call me at all. So
No, it's a very important point. So,
Thank
in
you
fact,
for
I'm
looking at
going
me
to.
when you said calling me 10.
No.
In fact,
Business and loans.
I'm going to take this forward. What you said, that cracking that right mix. So, Arpit, again. So I'm going to put you into the spot here. So how do you ensure the right mix of the various communication channels and multiple touch points? How do you ensure that you are leveraging the right mix to get that better experience to your customers? And here it is for two things. So if you're really talking about the existing customers, one is how do you retain them, and second is how do you cross sell, upsell to them. So how do you ensure that right mix of channels?
Again, as Saumya said, no one knows the answer. What is the right mix? But I feel that in an omni-channel strategy, right? So there's a research which says you need to reach a customer 7 times before he becomes your customer, right? And that's why we are all bombarded with messages, different channels, same messages coming to us. I feel every channel has a role to play, but what we should do is we should think about the customer journey and the pain point which the customer is facing, and how can the channel solve for that. I'll give you an example. So, for example, a student comes, he searches, I want CBSE class 10th questions. At that point of time, if I have my search results coming in and he can get that question, he will remember there was a brand which gave me those questions. I didn't tell him download my app, right? But I gave him the solution. The next moment, so if I have to reach him 7 times, I'll not reach him download my app. I'll provide 7 solutions to his problems through different channels. I'll go to his school. If he's a class 10 student, he would be wondering whether I take science, commerce, bio. I don't know. I'll provide a career counseling session to him. I'm not talking about the brand. I'm talking about the customers at that point of time. So I believe in an omni-channel strategy, yes, we should have an omni-channel strategy, but it should solve for a customer pain point rather than sending the same message again and again to the customer. So yeah.
And I think we end up sending same messages again and again because we're trying to acquire them for today. I think one common thing, I think given markets, even in products where we think that the market is quite small, it's only because we are trying to acquire them for today. I think one key thought we should also be is how do we blood them? Can we blood them younger? And basically, can we grow them into being potential customers for tomorrow, right?
Nurture them, actually.
Nurture them, right?
Yeah.
Especially in areas like banking, etc. The guy might not be eligible today, but hey, can I help you be eligible for tomorrow, right? Can I help you educate you on how to get a better CIBIL score, right? Can I help you? So how do we grow them is something that, I don't know, as brands, I think we need to do a much better job of figuring out. Right?
You know, I'm glad you said that because that's where for at least for us, it's not just about communication. It product strategy is a part of that, right? Because whilst I can reach out to you and tell you that you may be pre-qualified for a particular offer from a bank or an NBFC, if you're not eligible, it's worse, right? Where whilst you had a pre-qualified offer, but when you shared your updated information, the bank refused to extend any facility to you, and that's where the product has to come in, right? And that's where you really need to go back to the first principles, where Arpit mentioned solving the pain point. Right now, if somebody is looking for credit, there's a gap in their cash flow. What can I do as a brand to help them in that situation, right? And that's where there's a beautiful framework by Ashish from Ixigo. He has written a book called Cheap, Fast, and Viral. It's called the Iucdc Framework. We've actually taken that content framework and applied it to product, where if we can't solve for something, we'll give you information which is either useful, inspiring, celebratory, whatever, right? But we've taken that as a product strategy, so that people don't feel that they're left out, because it's a way, especially when it comes to money, it causes a lot of anxiety, right? There was a recent Deloitte report around how most of the millennials and Gen Zs are anxious about their future, financial future, right? And that's where it becomes extremely important to stay focused on what is the problem of the consumer, and then think in terms of which channel would allow us to essentially solve it the best, to the best of our ability. I mean, we try. There's no right answer, but I think we're all trying.
Right. So, Angad, I would like to get your view also on this, because we are in an age where consumers are they are tired of being spammed. It's like, because they're getting the messages across multiple channels from multiple brands, and in an era of where they don't hesitate to click unsubscribe at even the slightest of it could be, because you're getting so many messages or so many things, you can unsubscribe or you can just delete. How do you really optimize how do you really ensure that you have the optimum mix of right communication channels? How do you ensure that you are leveraging your multiple touch points in the most efficient
Authentic
manner
ways.
possible?
Yeah, so I think great question. I practically sort of built a career around marketing authentic integrations into content, working with hundreds of brands across the world, right? So while all of us are, creating an avenue of trust for our brands, getting our communication right, segmentation right, targeting right, the truth of the matter is that, Ananya Pandey and, Vijay Devaganda have come on Coffee with Karan, and they've said something and they've broken the internet. And that's what is actually being sort of talked about. And at the same time, Ranveer Singh has starred naked on Paper Magazine and has broken the internet yet again. Right? So while all of us are busy targeting the same people, these are the same consumers who are, let's just say, potentially equally, not equally, a lot more interested in that. Right? I think the truth of the matter is that all platforms of scale, at least in India right now on the internet, whether if it's Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, even the short form apps, are predominantly entertainment apps, right? And in a content obsessed nation, the way you deliver messages to that audience not only has to be in the right context, not only has to be garbed in a way which is just so deeply engulfing, the way you communicate. And I'm not saying you have to start selling memes to get your products and your acquisition strategy, or brief your creative agencies to just only sort of do 10-second reels or 30-second reels versus your 90-second cuts. That's not what I'm saying. I think the fact of the matter is that in an environment which content is both rich and dull, and the spectrum is just so wide, communicating authentically, effectively becomes uh, both an opportunity and a challenge at the same time. right? So I'm not going to answer the question, but I'm just saying finding your own voice and authenticity. I think Chella, you pointed out that brands which are not clearly positioned, who don't know what their raison d'etre is, what their, what they like. I think I love the fact that you started your conversation by saying that as a brand, top down from your CEO, Airtel is about serving to sell, right? I think that customer focus in an organization like yours is actually reflected in all your touch points. So I think brands which are not, let's just say, embedded in the social cultural zeitgeist of today's youth or today's sort of internet diaspora are going to really miss out creating meaningful connections.
So one thing is very clear that, as important as it is to identify and optimize the right communication channels, what you communicate, what your messaging is equally important. Like Arpit and Ankit pointed out, so one is, are you solving for their need, for their pain points? Are you really giving them what they are looking for? uh, so that brings me to the question, Arpit, for you, is that how are you designing your marketing strategies in a way to create those custom personalized solutions for your customers that create that relevant messaging, and work effectively across the multiple touch points? Because how do you ensure that your messaging is relevant, it is addressing the pain points that your customer has?
Sure. So basically, when we communicate to the customer, we are into the men's grooming segment. So basically, and I'd like candidly say that when you are communicating to men, there could be different ways of communication that our products can do wonders on you. So you can do that by any way, like the how X was used to do that you just apply their deodorants and it will do magic on you. That is one sort of communication. And then comes a communication where you just honestly say that this is my product, these are my USPs, I'm using these as the ingredients, and you try to be very very transparent to the customer that I'm using this. So basically, when I say this, because we take that very very seriously, even like on that is reflected in our brand communication, we always and always put a very uh, polite communication and a very gentlemanly communication, and basically that's what our brand stands for. I would say that we are gentleman's grooming partner. We are for the people, and we are, and anybody can be a gentleman. So every time we do any campaign, we put that first, that we want to be uh we want to be a brand. How you want, how a mother wants their son to be like, they want them to be gentlemen rather than in any other role. So that is like what we take very seriously. Secondly, whenever, and in terms of like transparency, as I was mentioning, so we are very very honest. We try to be like completely honest with the customer in sense of even whether that is mentioning the ingredients or the what, how, if we are mentioning that we are 99.6% natural ingredients are there, that means we are mentioning that in the front of our pack, matlab, and in FOP we are mentioning that very very clearly, so that customer understands that okay, 0.4% of the ingredients may be chemical, and which primarily happens like in the personal care industry. So we try to be very very specific, and even we have products which are maybe like 83% natural, so there's, you would say there's a 17% of chemical into it, but that's the nature of the product. It's up to the consumer to decide that whether they want to have that product or not. And we have seen that basically I'd like to just mention it that we even whenever matlab, I work with very closely with the CRM team, and they even get the like the customer request that we just changed few ingredients, matlab, a few ingredients in some of our products. So customer, and they were minor ingredients, and basically the how the ingredients are written on the pack are in the descending order of their quantities. So some arrangement was changed because the quantities changed. So we got like 2-3 calls for one particular product that you have mentioned aqua in it, and it is written at the bottom, and previously when I bought it, it was written in at this as the second ingredient. So even though the number was very very less, but at least there are people who are reading that and then even getting back to you. So that's a very that's a journey in itself. That customer is was buying your product, you are acquiring that customer, he's buying your product twice, reading that ingredients, remembering that, and then coming back to you. So we have basically learned this, that you have to be as transparent as to the customer when you're communicating, because you can like make any very you can create a hype about your product, you can do everything, but once he consumes your product, you want him to buy more of your products, you want to buy your products repeatedly. So that should start from the very first transaction that happens, and that is like we primarily focus on that from the day one, from the day of their acquisition. We just say what we are. So this is like we follow very uh, I would say religiously, when we design any of our campaign, when we conceptualize any campaign, communication, ad copy, email copy, we try to follow that to the best of our extent.
Right, right. Thanks. So, Saumya, when we started the conversation in my context setting, I mentioned that it is very important to, the customers expect today the brands to anticipate their expectations, and, being able to then therefore customize and personalize the solutions so that you can go to them with the relevant messaging. So in your case, how important is that, and how are you ensuring that?
uh, it's equally important like to any other industry or brand today, that customer demand personalization, and I think more than personalization is what convenience. I think when Jalen said that I would rather pay 1,000 rupees extra to Vistara, it's always convenience and trust is what customers looked at. But when it comes to personalization, I think Ankit mentioned, or some there was other one also who's mentioned, that it becomes very difficult for us to understand, are we following the trend on LinkedIn, or are we following the purpose of LinkedIn to communicate or to reach out to the customer. And what I communicate today on WhatsApp and what I communicate on SMS or what I communicate on Insta, do I need to standardize it or do I not need to standardize, so that because someone who coming on Insta, like he said, he's coming to listen to naked Ranveer Singh or Ananya Pandey and Vijay Gonkar stories. I don't know what he's coming. So if I show him, okay, my USPs are free RC transfer, instant payment, I'll be getting blocked at Insta. So I can't follow that. So it's a difficult miss. Like, where do we communicate? It's a equally difficult that how we communicate or how we customize to them. But I think one discretion that all of us as a customer would also want from brands that we use is that I have that power that, okay, you send me WhatsApp today, I can choose not to, okay, stop it also. Or probably stop you on Insta. Right? Today I search a Google word, I think Vignesh rightly said, I search something on Google and it's everywhere on my phone and laptops because everything is integrated. You'll find it everywhere. Like I've searched some air flights or some hotels. Okay, now next 15 days, all my search history will talk about that. And that reminds me, if I've not booked my hotel, I'm not happy because I'm not going on vacations, right? But if I'm going on vacation, it's distracting me at the equal time.
That's very interesting.
So that has to be so. But we as brand think we've done a great job doing that. No, you haven't done great job. Like I said, we need to empathize, like understand customer. There was a purpose at 9 p.m. I was sitting with my family to look for a vacation. Now at 9 a.m. in a morning call, you send me options of hotels. No, not appreciated. So it becomes very difficult to understand what customer wants. But yes, then we have to figure out the funnel flow also, right? Retarget, acquisition, it comes with that. So I think it's again we need to create that balance and find that right mix, that where to stop acquisition and start making customers satisfied. But yeah, it's not, I don't think so it's that easy to crack. Like I worked for a Middle East market also here in India. People hate us calling them. They love talking to us on phone for hours. I don't know why. Like that's a problem. So I don't know, like, but yeah, I think personalization is, again, you need to personalize as brand, that are you personalizing the mode, the message, or the platform. You have to pick and choose one.
Right.
Can,
So, yeah,
I
Abhishek,
I'll
yeah,
just
of course. Yeah.
sorry.
sorry, I
Yeah.
was just gonna say that it brings us back to Angad's point of segmentation, right? It's a challenge for everybody. Unfortunately, we're used to this whole Western consumption model where it's templatized and scaled. India does not work like that. There's the history and the culture is much older. You have pockets of people carrying that inertia, right? Where I was just so we have a couple of people at all times they'll be conducting consumer insight surveys, right? A 37-year-old man is consults his parents before taking a loan, whereas a 24-year-old boy or man again consults his friends before taking a loan. Right now, as with age, this will change. Things are getting templatized, but not with this current generation that we are targeting. Right, there is still a huge amount of influence by friends, by parents, by grandparents as well, who've seen a very different kind of environment. Like Saumya said, grandparents don't understand why somebody is spending so much time on their phone. When you talk to the kid, they're like, "This is my work. If I'm not tuned in, I don't know what to do." So that's where segmentation becomes even more important, and then the storytelling comes in.
No, I think, and to add to a few conversations, right? We're talking about customer consent for communication, essentially, right? And we all abuse it. We uh, and I don't think you can grow without talking to customers who've never given you consent, right? Because then you're going to be inward looking all the time, and we want, all of us want new customers. Uh, I think one of the things that we've tried to do is we literally take consent very seriously, right? And our product marketing as well as the content narrative, uh, when we put it out, right, for every customer who's actually not given us consent, we don't market products to them. We would talk about what we do, right? For example, we launched the Black program, right? And the program was meant to polarize our users, saying there's a product that we have, it offers superior service, right? uh, Unfortunately, it is a sentiment that we were extracting, saying there are some customers who will not get that superior service, right? But as a telecom company, I have to give the same kind of service on call. I cannot differentiate. I mean, the government does not allow me to differentiate between the call quality of a prepaid customer versus a postpaid customer, or a black customer, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, if we don't have consent from a customer about marketing to them, we have to still make it healthy, so that it's not intrusive. Almost lure the customer into welcoming us to sell the product to them, and it's extremely difficult, and it's something that we struggle with. uh, but the minute you get consent, you actually have the customer open to getting calls, talking to somebody, open to getting a WhatsApp conversation going on, and is almost looking for, did I miss something? And when companies have used this uh, reward subscription product to world's end to do exactly this, right? So this is something that I'm looking forward to learning from all of you, and how do we sort of solve this problem, right? Because I spend like my team spends thousands of hours a week trying to figure out how to make communication more effective, and uh, we go to the extent of looking at data to find out what is the right time in a day to call a person, right? When they're not driving, when they're not talking to somebody else, and when are they mostly taking calls from an unknown number? I mean, good that we have all that data to find out, but it's extremely hard just to figure out what is the best time to call a customer, right? And we've done this, or we've tried to get to these problem statements just because we have an obsession around, this is a customer who we don't have consent from to talk about anything, right? And how do we create that opportunity, right? And for us, with all this data, it's hard. I'm going to understand the fact that for you guys it's even harder, because your base is not already covering everyone potentially there, right? So any thoughts around how do you do that?
Abhishek, just to add to one point I think Saumya made earlier, and this kind of relates to what you said as well. Say somebody calls me at 10 o'clock, like you said, right? 9 o'clock, I'm busy taking a call and there's a holiday message that comes or whatever that is. Sometimes you say, you cut it or whatever. Sometimes you say, call me back later, right? Call me later, whatever you might say. I've realized that people who actually call back, your your attitude to them changes from being chased down. Like the first time when you call me, I hold the leverage, right? To say that I don't want to speak to you or whatever that might be. Example, out of 10 calls that I get, maybe two I might say, can you call me back later? I'm a little bit busy right now. Then somebody asks me, sir, what's the right time for you that might suit you? I'd say 6 o'clock, example. Then I get a call at 6 o'clock. Other person says, so is it comfortable now? Can the leverage shifts to you now? Now I feel like being nice to you because you remembered. What I've realized is most people, because it's such a disintegrated, disconnected world, right? The person who calls me in the morning just calls and okay, this is one of those bounce calls. I'm moving on, and you just keep bombarding people. I think that's probably a hidden opportunity there, just to the same spirit in which you are saying, right? When do I speak? That's one thing. Second thing is again, I have experienced that how people speak also makes a huge difference. It's not when is definitely important, but importantly how, because uh, like I'll tell you today morning I wanted to take some personal, meaning your insurance, health insurance. Okay, I went and I searched. I got bombarded with you know that I'm getting a 022 call. It's coming from one of these guys who have taken my number and they're calling me. I've realized, so that's the two bits to that. One is to say, think of the first call as the beginning of a journey. Many people might just cut it off, but whatever remains, maybe that's one thing. Second thing is training your people, to have a conversation rather than a sales call. I experienced this tremendous service. I don't know. I'm not an Airtel Black member because I'm quite happy with my postpaid service that you guys are giving me, but I'm a Vistara, whatever, gold thing. And I call them up. They obviously pick the call because I'm in the priority, whatever. I'm telling you, if they were to sell products to me, I will buy from them. They don't sell. But there's practically nothing that I have left and I've done at least 20 calls. Maybe the voucher, I want an extended voucher, whatever you call them up, right? I actually enjoy talking to them because I know I'll be treated with a great deal of respect and it'll be done well. So somewhere down the line, I think that's probably the big pivot that people are seeking. That how to improve the quality of the interaction, how to move from quantitative to qualitative. Fundamentally, I think is the real big pivot. It's just. I think you guys are already in that strategic direction, but that's just my couple of observations when you told me that.
I think rightly said, qualitative matters, but I think I have a different opinion on one of the factor. Like he said, you will want to talk to Vistara and maybe talk for longer period to other brand. Me as a person would not want to talk to any of the brand, even if they're giving a super service.
Okay.
Like quickly solve me on message or a WhatsApp. No, chat, let's finish it. They call me back also, I'm not busy. So if I'm busy, I disconnect and they will keep calling for 1 hour back to back. It annoys me more.
And that is where I think understanding the behavior pattern
Of a customer comes in.
also becomes very important for
Yeah.
brands too. So I think cracking this code of when to call, what to say, quality, quantity, and different behavior patterns. Is there a way to crack the code?
I think Abhishek only said he's cracked the data. I think you should start selling that, Abhishek. We might have some prospect sellers.
You can catch hold of him after this. And
Maybe it's because of the business that we are in. I think what Abhishek mentioned is, people actually have not given us consent to call them or email them or notification or WhatsApp or SMS or what you want to call it. People, and some of the biggest companies in the world today are single product use case companies, right? And Uber is about hailing a cab, and Instagram is watching reels. Gmail is about Gmail or emails in that sense. People just want to come to the service and move on, right? So we are online only. We don't call people as such, but One thing, because we know that we are here to create wealth for the customer, and wealth gets created only and only we recommend right products to him or her. Don't destroy one's portfolio by having 10s and 15 and 30s of schemes in the portfolio. 4 to 6 products are enough to basically sail through any kind of market. We know all those things. We just try to do how do we ensure that everybody has these things taken care of. So instead of selling anything to them, we just communicate how to become a better investor. Yeah, so we have a simple rule that we will not communicate on email more than 3 times in a month. Less is the better, but we'll not communicate more than that. For any kind of which is going to result in transaction. If anything is about adding value, educating, making him a better person in terms of investments, we will look at opportunities and talk to them. Yeah, so we believe in basically looking at our app, our consent, whatever we've taken it for a ride in that sense that any channel is about building relationships. Thankfully, any investor or a customer who comes in and buys a product from us has to do KYC. So we know your entire chitta, like we know name, PAN number, your possible income, your address, your family responsibilities, who's a nominee. We know all of it. So it becomes a very easy thing for us that if we want to go deeper, which we don't many times, honestly, where we can leverage what we know about the customer to tell him better. So we know that if market is actually such that possibilities of going up is lesser, but possibility of falling down is higher, can we send a communication with book profits? Now, most mutual fund companies in the world will not do that because the moment a mutual fund company tells you to take the money off, like you would not have heard a single fund manager on CNBC or ET now that market is expensive, sell. Because the moment you sell, the amount of money that the fund manager starts making goes down. Yeah, so we actually say let's make him sell, because if he sells, he'll make profit. If he makes profit, he'll come to us again. So I think it's all about categories. We look at a Swiggy or a Zomato possibly. They're all interested selling us more deliveries, more food or groceries, or whatever you call them. I think if we take the equation away from kind of transaction or commerce relationship to something where you make the life of the customer a bit better, I'm sure there is more business to follow. Like, maybe it's a wacky idea, but if Zomato started selling you ordering too much of desserts, possibly I'll start spending it more.
Great, thanks. Since we are on top of time, I want to quickly cover two areas, important areas, and Chella, maybe we can have your view on this. How are you optimizing the cost of connecting with the right audience to better serve them, and at the same time, scale it efficiently? Because when you are there's a certain cost in connecting with a customer. So to ensure that you're connecting with the right customer, how are you optimizing that cost and scaling that model?
Okay, so I'll speak from my context. Obviously, I think everybody will have a different view on this. If I were to just speak about, I think we market to say one of the brands markets to fitness consumers. So your question is, how do we optimize our communications, to improve ROI? Am I right? With the question?
To connect with the right
consumer. Yeah. Okay. So it goes back to again the question around what are the consumers seeking, and which environments they come to for that. I'll give a simple example. We take an influencer. Okay. In our industry, people take influencers very seriously because the amount of money they put in. So when you go to a gym, for example, or when you go, it's like a transformational event in that person's life. It's like so everything changes about him, right? I think his diet changes, his habits change. So we optimize it through working with influencers. We optimize through what is this influencer's key story. Like some influencers make the name on calling out the negatives of the industry. So we go to them when we want to say something about how everybody else is, taking you for a ride. But we are some influencers who are the encouraging type, so where you will see their audience is the 18 to 20-year-old kind of people. So basically it's message and messenger match is one way I would say we do that. Second is, I think the bigger point I would say here is, I don't know how applicable it is to all of you. I used to work with a company called Kimberly Clark, which was into baby care and so on and so forth, right? The best ROI are for brands which enjoy organic traffic. Nothing can beat that. Okay, so if you go to an Amazon, for example, or whatever that might be, I can get 100 consumers by paying 1,000 rupees per consumer. Okay, that I would consider that great, because my lifetime value would probably be 9,000 rupees. But the same 100 consumers, if a brand is well known and if the products are working for them, they would be getting almost 20, 30,000 organically coming to them. So when I look at ROI, I see it as two engines, right? One is the here and the now. How do we match messenger and message and all that? But the longer real game is that they come to you on their own. You don't have to go chasing them.
Absolutely. So, Saumya, in fact, you in the first question you pointed out that the dynamics of your industry are such that uh, the customers, your customers, once they have bought, probably they are not going to be your repeat customers very soon. So, therefore, it is very important that you connect with the right set of customers. So, how are you optimizing the cost of connecting with them and being able to serve them more efficiently?
So I think for me, the cost relies their satisfaction score. I don't go with business cost a lot of times. So what we are doing actually is we are actually optimizing their touch points. Like today, it's funnel start as soon as he comes to my website and see the price, or he wants to sell the car. His journey starts there. I just want to target it. Okay, once he's booked an appointment with me. Targeting customer acquisition starts at their cost, but what we are reducing is we're reducing to reach out the customer till the time he does not book the appointment. Like Abhishek said, right? He's not given me a consent. And appointment I consider as a consent that he wants to be my customer. Before that, I want to leave it the decision to me. What would you want to be a customer to OLX or to other brands? So that's a mix that I want to optimize, because that is the maximum leg that we face issues with. But as we move down the funnel, our communications are to an extent okay, because once he sold the car, he's okay till 6 months because the RC transfer takes that much of time. The rest of the funnel is taken care for us. Where we struggle usually is till the time it's an acquisition, lead acquisition. It's a lead stage he is. So there we are trying to just work with bots and not with calls or human interventions, so that I'm not bombarding or spamming him with our communications are end. So I think that's one comment. Anything beyond that, I cannot restrict to WhatsApp or WhatsApp bots or SMS or emails, because it's that stage where I've seen that 70% of my customer would want me to call him, because first it's not a repeat customer and it's not a low asset that we deal into. And the third, which is very important to our industry, the car. It's an emotional asset to everyone. Is it a first gift gifted by some daughter or son on their first salary or on given on marriage? So there's a lot of emotional value also. So they say, like I said, 70% of the customer do want us to call once they're part of the funnel. Before that, there is the pain area is what we are saying. Let's automate with the help of product and not reach out manually to them. So that's an approach that we are working towards it. But yes, I think SMS are no for sure. The adoption is only 20%. I think the WhatsApp is the new game today. And I think SMS challenges all of us with faces is TRI has given a n number of guidelines these days that the DLT approval never comes in. So that's also a problem, I think.
Because the right.
I'm gonna hide.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hide from there.
So
I mean, what is amazing is so I run Airtel IQ, right, which is essentially a CPaaS product, and our job is to make communication more effective, right, and give it like a service rather than as a product, right? So I picked up 4 words. What everybody is looking for is simplified, personalized, effective communication. I don't know how to solve it, but I think there are startups that are going to come up in trying to solve this significantly, right?
for all of us, emails are also bombarded. We have cracked the best customer experience for your organization and everything. I'm like, if you have done that, I think then you should be the god of the industry. Don't come to us and tell us that we've cracked it. So there are a lot of agencies. Actually, I met with 2 or 3 and then I realized, okay, this is not working for us. All of us have a similar data, but there are agencies who are actually working on this. Let's see when do we achieve it. But jokes apart, there are actually industries now who are understanding when to reach what mode, how much frequency, everything that they're working on. I would not have names on the top of my mind because I'm not working with either of them right now, but there are a lot of agencies who reach out to me and they say that we're going to streamline the entire customer CLM and the CRM journeys for you. So I can, of course, forward those emails to you, but there are a lot of companies coming in place.
Please do.
I don't know how effective they are, but yeah, they are. So, like I said, they are working probably the right direction. Like you said, this is all of us are looking at. They're working in the right direction. Let's see how sooner the problem gets solved.
And if you add to what Biswal said, if you look at the one more component, I would add it at the right cost, right? Because today I think we are scratching at the bottom of the funnel. It's like, how cheap can I get? Can I go cheaper? Hey, I'm getting a cost per click at $5. Can you get me at $4? And we're just looking to outsource our challenges to anyone else who wants to take it, right? So there is a complete industry playing arbitrage right now, right? So I think what is the right cost we are willing to pay for the quality customer, I think is super important, right? I think that's something that we definitely need to take away. And if it is a right customer, it is going to be slightly more expensive than us saying that, hey, we'll get you at the lowest cost possible, right? I think that's something that we all need to acknowledge. I think because we are part of it as well, I think, right?
But that's where even platforms like Google and Facebook, they are building their products to essentially help brands not just go at the bottom of the funnel, right? Where, for example, with Facebook, they have their server-side APIs. I mean, it's been there for some time, but essentially what both of them are saying is, don't tell me who your customer could be, what their interest could be. Just upload your entire funnel to me. Let me optimize for it, right? If you have the wherewithal to start at the top of the funnel, go ahead. We'll try and optimize from wherever you start, but push your entire funnel to us, right? And send us those signals. Our AIs are much smarter than what your performance marketing guys could do. So let us do that work for you, right? In some cases, it does work, but a lot of times what happens is, you ask about ROI, the cost, right? And that's where a lot of the brands do go wrong, especially younger startups where they don't have the budgets to really target the entire funnel, right? So they're going at the bottom of the funnel, that what is the cheapest, fastest way to get that customer? If I benchmark myself with the industry, am I lower or higher? How can I achieve that benchmark, right? So it's not really about setting benchmarks, but achieving benchmarks, right? As the company grows, you'll see bigger companies talking about, top of the funnel awareness campaigns running, middle of the funnel campaigns running, bottom of the funnel campaigns running, lookalike campaigns running, retargeting running, right? And it's all about the budgets that you're looking at, right? If I run for example, I launch a top of the funnel awareness campaign, I need to run it for a certain period of time to see that sort of coming down into the bottom of the funnel, right? But it's not just that we're facing these challenges and the two largest distribution platforms don't get it. They've already started acting on it, right? Google no longer encourages you to be on a last click model, but be on a data driven model, right? Send your signals. So that is sort of helping, but again, the inflow is much higher of people who are trying to use these platforms. And again, budget is becoming a differentiator, right? Which the problem that these platforms had solved for was that anybody could advertise and reach out to customers. Somewhere that, that value proposition is getting diluted, where again, higher budgets can target larger funnels, can achieve something much better than what a smaller company can with smaller budgets. So that is a challenge, right, for young startups.
Yeah. Thank you. So one last thing that I want to touch upon is that the fundamentals of the game is going to change in the post-cookie world. So, Arpit, how are you rethinking advertising and preparing for it in the post-cookie world?
As in picking cue from, say, what Santosh mentioned, right? Lesser the communication, more relevant the communication, that is better, I believe. Limit yourself. As you mentioned, you send only, you have a rule around 3 emails or which have to be sent in a month. Maybe don't bombard with customer is already bombarded. So I receive 120 emails in a day, out of which only 5 are readable and rest I delete without even looking at it. So I believe empathy, as Saumya had mentioned, is the way forward. Be relevant, be empathetic to the customer. That is the way forward.
So, Angad, your take on the post cookie world. How do you see advertising in the post cookie world?
So I think from Apple's perspective, we're already in a post-cookie world. Google has deferred their policy, I think, to sustain the funding winter, whatever, economic winter. Look, I think Chella said that for every brand, the eventual ambition needs to be being direct to consumer, right? So unless and until you have a mechanism, it could be an app, it could be your retail stores, it could be just, I don't know, figuring out a way so that your organic searches, brand searches are going up on Google. Unless and until every single decision is optimized towards that outcome, eventually, whether if it's a cookieless world or tomorrow it could be just completely going blind on every aspect of data, you don't really know what the sort of limits of privacy, even from the consumer side, are going to be in the future. What browsers are going to sort of really take center stage. The fact that if you look at the teenagers today, there's a reason why Discord is seeing more adoption than even WhatsApp, right? So I think if you look at a 10-year time frame, I think forget cookie, any signals that you are not being able to generate directly from the customer is going to be a de facto, right? So I mean, I'm curious as to, like, even Airtel ads, as you guys sort of put up your stack, right? What is going to be, like, I'd love to learn what is going to be your sort of raison d'etre
So yeah,
in this sort of crazy ecosystem.
You're definitely talking about the fact that you need to have first party data, right? I mean, I think every one of us, if you talk
Exactly. So I think that's the holy grail, like, unless and until you're sitting on that first party data,
Correct.
it's
And I think it's a challenge as well, right? For brands as well, right? We all talk about first party data. We all want to have all the data we can about our consumers. But first thing is, are consumers willing to give it to you, right? And are you able to, like Biswal said, we have so many modes of channels of reaching out to the consumers. Can you store content in across every platform? That's number two. Second thing is, even if you have the data, can you afford to store it, get insights out of it, and build it, right? And how long is it going to take you to build that insights, right? And as you know, time is something that we don't have the luxury of, right? So how do we do that? And I mean, I'm happy to chat with you and figure out and how we can help, right? Because we are a large brand ourselves, and one of the things that we realize when we have a large marketing budget and we are acquiring for so many different products, and as our businesses grow, we're trying to acquire new customers as well as upsell to existing ones. And we realize how first party data becomes super important. So we are very careful about balancing, making sure that we're not bombarding the customer. At the same time, are we able to use it effectively so that when a consumer receives an ad or a communication from Airtel, very clear that this is something that they are very clear that this is of interest to me, right? Otherwise, we're all getting bombarded with stuff that we don't want. So if you can find that balance, and it's what we are trying to do, right? I think we've started out on that journey, and I think we are starting to get better. I don't think we are completely there yet. That will be the holy grail, but I think we've definitely started working on that. Sure. But love to have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll just add, like, I know we were discussing, like, first party data and cookies out here, but sort of, not with the intent of bringing my flavor into this conversation, but I genuinely am of the opinion that brands which are able to, again, permeate into social culture, right? I think that aspect in, like, developing brands is going to be more center stage, right? Because I think consumers have a tendency to gravitate towards certain aspects of entertainment, certain type of content, and I think that segmentation on platforms will become more and more apparent, and I think brands will sort of be able to very authentically sort of absorb themselves into those universes. So again, it doesn't relate to sort of data as such, but more sort of authenticity of the brand being integrated into social narratives. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I
so-
think if you really think about it, right, even having deeper understanding about your own customers is first principle of building first party data, right? And the more information you have about them, the more you curate, the more aggregation of touch points you could do is going to give you better ways to serve the same customer, right? So it's not just about advertising. It's, I think, in first principles of building the brand, I'm sure, and that's what you were talking about, saying how do you do that? How do you uh, talk about the philosophy of your product, your brand, to the customer so that they empathize with the philosophy rather than the product you're trying to sell. So I think great point.
Great. So I know we have really overstepped our time, but I don't want to wrap up this conversation without getting one nugget from each one of you as to what is your one key expectation when it comes to customer engagement that you want to be solved. One big problem statement to be solved going forward. What is that?
For me, it would be personalization in terms of how do I target or how do I understand what kind of messaging needs to be sent to whom. So personalization is something which I want to solve.
Angad.
I think customer segmentation is one. It's a sort of such a massive field, right? In the world of marketing. I think lots of years ago, but almost 8 or 9 years ago, as I was building my sort of media brands, MensXP, Idiva, we were able to narrow down a model of emotions, right? So for example, OMG, WTF, a lot of the content that we were creating had to essentially solve for one of these emotional buckets, right? And there's a very simple sort of a principle of virality that we figured out, that look, hey, if you put out a sort of a video on college goers and you sort of target it to like a lot of these quota type belts, engineering belts, it'll go viral. So we figured that out. We figured the sort of science behind that. I think a lot of segmentation and engagement sort of thereby is going to be built not just purely on demographics, but on emotional psychographics. So I think one thing that I really want to sort of solve for is to really attach underlying emotions to various Indian psychographies. I think that's broadly what my attempt is going to be.
Great. Arpit, what do you want to be solved for?
So
One big
basically, what I feel is like, uh, which is very, very important, I think, for all the brands here, is like your referral is that thing. So your customers who have bought from you, either you are a short term, like a brand who can have a frequency of even buying after every 15 days or after every week, or maybe a brand like OLX where you come back maybe like after 5-10 years. So basically the thing that we want to solve for is the right communication to the existing set of customers so that they keep on buying themselves and they keep on referring new customers to you. So there where that's where if you are spending on the right customer service, or basically the entire like overwhelming the customer, that customer will do your acquisition by himself. So this is basically in the long term, and that will also like aid your profitability and I would say like the good reputation for the brand, because that is happening without you pushing directly to that customer to buy your product. So this is what basically we want to do, and we like try to take steps in that direction.
Saumya, what's on your agenda to solve?
I
One
think the
big thing.
yeah, so the key will be so whatever we crack, the frequency or the trigger or the mode of communication, my customer trust me. Like today, Amazon, they send email, SMS, app notification, everything. Even if we might transact 2 or 3 in a month, but none of us, I don't think so either of us even frown on their message. But be it something else does it, we get irritated why they're even sending. There's a stop button. So I think the brand that where I work, I would want customer to trust me if I'm sending that's a relevant information to him and he accepts it. He's not frowning at the message. Of course, Amazon does not bombard it, but even if I call them today, they will send me an email for their IVR, whatever call feedback. They don't send me SMS, they send me an email. But I still don't say anything, don't hate it, or there's no LinkedIn or a Twitter post saying that Amazon is bombarding with me 3 emails, app notification, and everything. So I think if we are able to reach that trust ki whatever I'm communicating frequency, I think they've done research, experimentation, I don't know what all that. But if I as a customer trust them today and I'm happy with them, I think then it's the game. So probably somewhere down the line would want to reach there.
Thanks. Chela, what is it that you want to crack?
Yeah, I
The
think
problems.
to put it simply, I think customer engagement should lead to brand love. That's as simple as that. Like you put an ad, the purpose of putting a piece of communication on TV is you want people to develop a positive opinion about you, become a, net positive consumer. Even a message or a whatever, WhatsApp message or should lead to that. To me, that's the holy grail.
Great. Santosh, your
I
biggest
would
problem
love
to solve.
kind of work towards how do we like the biggest problem that we have, in my opinion, is simplify the category for the customer. That in first few interactions, he or she makes up her mind what she wants to buy. I think it's our categories like just in mutual funds there are 36 categories of mutual funds, and it's extremely tough to even buy one. I think we need to work towards how do we simplify it so much that people are able to make up the minds.
I think everyone makes fun of the mutual fund investment advertisements.
So it's funny, right? So we actually can't advertise on cricket. Many times where our entire customer base is more male centric, of course, category male centric. Because if you do cricket advertising, you are actually paying much more in disclaimer advertising than actually your main product, because 6 seconds is non-negotiable. So every time you put an ad, if at all you put an ad, and figure out how many lakhs you're spending per ad impression just for disclaimer.
Thanks. Ankit, you.
So for us, we have a peculiar problem. We're the most loved sort of person when somebody needs money, and then irrespective of whether you get money or you don't get money, we're still the most hated person even after you've got the money, because now you have to start repaying.
Very peculiar.
Right? So we're always in the bad sort of place. But honestly, like Ankit said, the good thing with post-cookie world is that we're going back to the basics of storytelling, right? And we live in a world where it's about transmedia storytelling. So for us, what we're really trying to solve for is how are we constructing this narrative for our consumer, which channel is contributing to that narrative moving forward, and how do we keep our user interested and engaged in that narrative. And it's an iterative process, right? Every day things are changing, our narrative would change a little bit, the mission doesn't change, the goal doesn't change, but how are we going to get there? And segmentation becomes a big part of it, channels become a big part of it, cost becomes a big part of it. But at the end of the day, this story has to be engaging for your customer to actually just stay with you, and that's what we're trying to solve for on a daily basis. So yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna add, I think just reiterating on what Chella said, right? Engagement is also such a big spectrum. Like a visitor on your website, like somebody watched your, I don't know, gave you a 3-second view on an Instagram post or a 10-second view on a Facebook video. It's such a big spectrum. So I think it's only going to be natural for all marketeers to now start sort of going deeper into that funnel, right? So everyone is, especially in a post-cookie world, is going to start optimizing for the quality of the engagement, right? So the essentially what's happening is the funnel, as the world gets more and more complicated, the funnel is just going to get longer, right? So you start with the engagement or ad or whatever content, go deeper, turn it into a visit. How do you make the visit a little better? Is it ending at a form? Is it ending at, I don't know, another view? Is it ending at a sign up? Like, I think the spectrum of the engagement is where the opportunity is for everyone. It's the quality of the engagement is the next step, um, is what I was also trying to say earlier.
Absolutely. So Abhishek and Vignesh, you both you heard the to dos from both sides of the table. So any closing remarks from you in terms of how much do you see, where do you see the market is moving? Are we closer to some of these to dos that they spoke about?
I can answer that quickly. No, uh, we're absolutely not close. I think, if I were to take up a challenge in terms of how can, if I have to build one product where I can solve some of this, is if I can automate content personalization. And I think that's the thing to crack, at least from where I'm coming from, because uh, we have and this being Airtel, we have a large set of data about a customer, right? And sometimes the data set is so large that we don't know what to do about it. I can see all brands, including Airtel, having a challenge of, we don't have a limitation of content, right? We have lots of content to show. We don't know what can we show to a person, right? And I think that is a problem that I'm taking back today, that if I solve that, it could solve things around engagement, about uh, customer loving what they see, and their whole habit about coming back for more, because they enjoyed what they saw the first time. And that's something that I think I can take back. I can work on it. uh, the good part is, uh, we know customers before they actually become users on your website, right? And if we can find out a seamless way of sharing that, like you said, figure out how to monetize the data, uh, that's tough. And that's not going to happen. But I think if I can tell all of you, uh, what can you show your customer to make their life better, I think that's a good problem for me to take back and solve, because I think that gives the power back to the brands to talk about their story in the way they want to, rather than us selling impressions, or us sending out messages on your behalf, right? So that's something I can take back.
Vignesh, from your end.
I think Biswal's absolutely right. But the fact is also that our industry is constantly evolving. Every 3 months, 6 months, there is something that happens and that completely changes the way we work. So I think one takeaway for us is that it's going to be continuously disrupting, and that we need to evolve and just be nimble. And I think we constantly learn from each other. I think so many experiences that we shared today, and the fact that we as different brands, different companies having different perspectives on engagement, on advertising, on reaching to the right customer, getting the right customers, are very basic stuff, right? But that still continues to be a challenge. I think one thing that I definitely take away from today is the fact that I think the willingness to be able to evolve and to be able to understand, hey, this is probably not the right formula. Will there be a right formula? No, I don't think so. There is going to be a right formula. But is there something that we can work towards, and can we start collaborating a lot more? I think we should stop definitely living in silos and definitely collaborate a lot more. And for example, in Airtel, as Biswal said as well, we have a lot of data. Is there a way that we can help brands to get closer to their customers? And is there a way that we can help them get a better quality, better engagement, and in the process, make our customers happy too? Because right, if you can balance that, that would be great. So yeah, that's my takeaway.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. It was a great conversation. I think we could have gone on and on, but we definitely can continue it offline in a more let's say over cocktails and dinner in a lighter environment. From my side, when I started with my context setting and spoke about how customer retention is equally important, how they can become your brand ambassador. In fact, Chella gave me that the example of Vistara twice. I think it's an apt example of how a happy customer can become your brand ambassador. And they will always remember you and create new customers in the process. So and what Abhishek said, so this requires simplified, personalized, effective communication at the right time, at the right place, to the right communication channels. So whether we have cracked that code, it doesn't look like we have cracked that code, but let's keep the process going. Let's keep the conversation going, and maybe we will crack it someday. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a great weekend ahead.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.